If you thought that was cool, you'll probably like this game. This is Horizon Zero Dawn, the much anticipated first-party RPG action open-world game for the PlayStation 4. Getting some housekeeping off of the way right off the bat, PlayStation Canada's marketing people gave me this game for no monies. I did not buy it, it was given to me, but I was not otherwise compensated for this game. And yay, PlayStation, they make you actively agree to say these things in writing and on screen. Yay, disclosure. Okay, that being said, what did I think? I think this game is awesome. I'm gonna say it's awesome if you enjoy the Far Cry games or any of those other sort of open world Ubisoft with a side of BioWare RPG and a lot of Heavenly Sword. And that is a good thing for me. If you don't like the open world adventure format, there is far more of that than RPG. So there's a lot of exploration. In my opinion, this game is more of an experience than a challenge. There are parts that are difficult, but it's more about having fun. It's more about trying the different weapons, swapping them out, doing combos, setting the traps, and taking down robot dinosaurs with various bow and arrow type weapons in interesting and fun ways. The world is beautiful. The sounds and soundtrack are this really cool mix of tribal drums and electronica, which makes sense because it's a chick in animal skins with a bow and arrow fighting robot dinosaurs. Now, in terms of the plot, it does actually explain why a chick with a bow and arrow is fighting robot dinosaurs. I'm not kidding. They actually managed to weave a sort of sci-fi fantasy hybrid story that explains the gameplay in a really fun way. The story will not be anything terribly new to fans of this sort of genre, but it's told in an interesting way with interesting characters, a very diverse cast of characters, and I want to caution people because, not because there's anything wrong with the game, because people may be put off early on because the culture that Aloy, the main character, is a part of, the Nora, is a matriarchy. And I think some people, because of the sort of politically charged environment that gaming is in right now, will feel beaten over the head with it at the beginning. Don't worry about it. This is not some sort of political piece. The game is not lecturing you. It is simply world building to explain some of the lore. It is not implying that matriarchies are superior culture. There's a lot of complexity and flaws within the Nora culture, and there are other societies in the world that are structured differently. So it's more like I said, a BioWare RPG in that way, where there are different factions and things like that. Now, the dialogue component is lighter than in a BioWare RPG. So if you tried Mass Effect or you tried Dragon Age and the talkie went on a little too long or a lot too long for you, it's significantly scaled back here. The RPG elements are more in crafting and selecting your weapons, augmenting them, modifying them, and, kind of building your character. There are choices in the game, but they are, for the most part, just so you can have the experience you want. You can choose to have Aloy respond kind of combatively. The little brain icon is sort of responding intelligently. It's more like snarky. And then there's the compassionate response. And what I liked about these is they're all equally good in different ways. She has some very funny zingers in the game, but the compassion stuff isn't syrupy. It's not, how could you? It actually is appealing to somebody's better nature as opposed to being weepy and kind of victimized. So it's very good. And yes, we have a female character who has a defined personality and is interesting in her own right. And at first I was afraid the way the game starts off with Rost here, that this was going to be another daughter as Dream Girl game, but it's not so far. It really does set it up and give her motivations. The game is not being told through the eyes of a father figure or a father. It very much is her story and how she feels about it and what her motivations are, and her mother figures prominently as well in her motivations. And I don't want to say too much more about the story, because one of the cool things about Horizon Zero Dawn is watching the story unfold and the different layers. It's the story of one young woman, but it is also the story of a world, because this is a new IP. And let me tell you, it's rich. It's a pretty cool, I'll say space fantasy setting, because it's really not hard sci-fi, and I want to be really careful defining that, because if you're playing this to be a straight up sci-fi game, it's not that. It's space fantasy. So much more Star Wars than kind of Star Trek or any of that kind of thing. What else can I say about it? People are probably, okay, what's wrong with it? If you don't like exploration, the map is massive, and your fast travel options, the number of times you can fast travel is limited. So they use fast travel in this game the way the original Resident Evil used saves. You have to collect fast travel packs, and so you have a limited number of them. To me, I kind of liked that, because the idea of this game is to explore your surroundings, to get all those collectibles, to learn about the world, and you're gonna miss a lot if you're fast traveling all over the place. Load screens are pretty good. I will say that. You're not gonna be sitting there forever if you do use the fast travel, and it's handy sometimes when you're all the way on the north or the northeast part of the map and you've got to get back down to the south. You can use some of those fast travels, but otherwise, you want to play it like video game tourism, exploring this sort of Jurassic World in the Stone Age with robots type reality, and play it at your own pace. I wish I had more time. I do not want to give a full review and rush through the game. That's why I'm doing this as a first impressions review-ish, because I wanted to get something out right away. It plays so well that it is worth it based on what I've seen so far. And it's one of those games that the story, it's great that the story is enjoyable. But much like the Far Cry games, even if it isn't, you're shooting robot dinosaurs in the face and the butt with bows and arrows that explode. What more do you want from a video game? And there will probably be a lot of debate about whether this game is feminist or whether it is not. I really suggest when you're playing it, you try not to think about it. This is a fantasy world.
Here we go.
So take it for what it is. Don't look at it as, what does this say about our world? Because there is some social commentary, but it's not on the nose. It's open-ended to me, and like a good video game as opposed to a movie or a television show, it allows the player, while you're exploring this world, to kind of think about the ideas the game throws at you. And I really enjoy this because you are exploring and just seeing the pretty scenery and climbing up to find vantage points and things like that, and climbing the tall necks, which is one of the coolest things. Giant giraffe robot, so cool. But because there is a lot of downtime, it does give you the ability to kind of chew on some of the things you've discovered, and I really, really enjoy that. So I don't know what more I can say. I'm sure some people will try it and absolutely hate it because they don't like the open world format. If you don't like open world games, it doesn't matter how good this game is, you are not gonna like it. And if you're looking for something that is a really hard game, this is not that. It's it's interesting, but you have to make challenge for yourself, trying to go in there and use the stealth mechanics. It's similar to Uncharted in that there's very few hard fails in terms of stealth. If you screw up the stealth, you can just fight your way out of it, which I prefer, especially with game reviews, just because as much as I like my stealth games, I don't have the time in these review processes. And this is another game I think is really gonna suffer from everybody rushing to review it, because if you just blow through the campaign, you're missing a huge amount of world stuff, world building, backstory, secondary subplots. The hunting challenges are fun. The exploration is fun. The Easter eggs in game, I'm trying to be really careful not to give too much away in this visual, so I went with most stuff that's very early in game. But just the little things you see in the game are so cool. And it's really amazing to play a game that just makes you go, wow. So when I completely finish the game, when I feel like I'm finished the game, I will do a follow-up to let you guys know what my final impressions were. But at this point, a good, I don't know, 20 hours in, I'm loving it. I think it's really a lot of fun. And that's what matters at the end of the day, right? Right. So if you have questions that I haven't addressed here, leave a comment. I'll get to as many of them as I possibly can on Friday. And please subscribe for this and my other coolness content. And if you can, kick a couple bucks over at my Patreon. These videos are 99.9% funded by your patron dollars. Thanks all!